Hey everyone, welcome to episode 45 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. My name is Bill Pivots. I apologize for not doing an episode last week with the holidays and everything like that. I just got caught up, just doing other things at the moment. Plus, it was a 2-week recap show, so I figured I'd do 2 weeks all at once anyway. Speaking of that, I hope you guys had a great Christmas, great Happy New Year. Hope everyone's safe. Hope you enjoy the time with your family. So let's kick things off right in 2016 with the recap of the 2-part Best of NXT show. It was hosted by Corey Graves and Rich Brennan. The show actually began all the way back in December of 2014 with the debut of Kevin Owens at TakeOver Our Evolution and his turn on Sami Zayn. The whole video package leading up to their match just reminded me how awesome this feud was, how personal it got. It was just very well done, and it's definitely not the last we've seen of these two together in WWE. They then transitioned into the TakeOver Rival match and the title match between Owens and Zayn. And at the time, it was just weird seeing Kevin Owens without his grizzly beard like he has now. They then hyped up that they would show the Elimination Chamber match between Cena and Owens, and a never-before-seen match between Adrian Neville and Antonio Cesaro. We got a hype video for Hideo Itami, his signing with NXT, transitioning over, and his first match. They then talked about how he earned a spot in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, brought up the injury before TakeOver Unstoppable, and then they cut to the ending moments of the number one contenders match between Tyler Breeze and Finn Balor. We then got behind-the-scenes video clips of the NXT crew setting up the first house show outside of Florida, which ended with Graves saying that the future is bright for NXT as a touring brand, and you'll see more NXT events around the country and the globe. Man, this guy is a prophet, because in 2015, NXT blew up Brooklyn, Pennsylvania. Like, they went to Philly for a couple days. They took the show overseas and had a 7-day tour in London. So it was definitely a big year of expansion for NXT. Rich Brennan and Corey Graves then talked about where NXT went, all the different places, and will they be going in 2016. If you guys haven't seen it, Triple H tweeted out a few dates that NXT will be doing the first part of 2016, and one of them will be the show in Asbury Park, New Jersey on February 19th, which is about a 20-minute drive from my house, so I am definitely going to that show. They then cut to the Neville-Cesaro match about 19 minutes in, and they said the full match will be available on the Best of NXT DVD coming out in March. The final moments of this match were really cool, so I can only imagine how the match was in full, and I'll definitely check out that match when the DVD comes out. Corey Graves and Rich Brennan then brought up the women's division, and more specifically the 4 horsewomen, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. They then went to the Iron Woman match between Bayley and Sasha at TakeOver Respect, at the point where they were tied about 2 apiece. I think it was right after the moment Sasha threw Bayley into the video board on the Titantron. The next match was then Samoa Joe versus Baron Corbin from TakeOver Brooklyn. It was an interesting choice to have that match. It wasn't definitely one of my best ofs for NXT in 2015, but I guess because it was Samoa Joe's first big match, it makes sense to include it here. There were then highlight videos showing the debut and returning stars to NXT like Zack Ryder, Rhino, James Storm, and of course Samoa Joe. And then they showed highlights of the Joe Corbin match. It was good, but like I said, it wasn't one I would put on a best of NXT show. We then got highlights of Sami Zayn's Raw debut, accepting Cena's U.S. title open challenge. And then it was Kevin Owens' debut, how he didn't accept the challenge, attacked John Cena. And then the highlights of the Elimination Chamber match, where Kevin Owens got his first win over John Cena. And that match was actually really good. Granted, it wasn't on an NXT show, but just seeing Kevin Owens hold his own against John Cena. Granted, Kevin Owens can definitely hold his own against pretty much everyone. But seeing him on a main stage like that, where a lot of fans in WWE haven't really seen much of Kevin Owens, it was just good to see that he can definitely transition well into the WWE style, per se. They then closed out the show. Corey did anyway, without Rich. Rich then appeared out of nowhere, gave Corey a gift, who then tossed it over his shoulder. And that was the end of the part 1. Part 2 aired this past Wednesday, January 6th. It began with the Finn Balor hype video leading up to the Beast in the East special with him winning the NXT Championship. Corey Graves and Rich Brennan welcomed us to part 2 and threw it to that title match underway. Another great match. It was more of a WWE show, but it was nice to see that Finn Balor was back in Japan where he got everything started. It was just this year alone, it was just filled with so many great NXT matches that it was just really hard to pick the match of the year. I'll talk about the awards after the recap of this show, but it was just really hard for me to pick that match. They then hyped up that we would be seeing Finn Balor and Samoa Joe from London and a never-before-seen match in Dallas between Apollo Crews and Ty Dillinger. We then got a Elias Sampson vignette, which felt out of place on this show. Graves and Brennan then hyped up both Crews and Dillinger and then threw it to that match. At where they picked up, Dillinger had Crews in a modified camel clutch. Crews made his comeback with a few clotheslines and a running splash. Ty caught him with the super kick. Ty went into the corner and it was setting up for something, but Crews landed a nice heel kick and finished him off with his military press and standing moonsault. We then got a video recapping a look into the future for the women's division, since Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha all left for Raw. Began with Bayley reading the essay she wrote as a teenager. We then got highlights of Carmella, Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss, Emma, Dana Brooke, and Asuka. The clips actually transitioned well. They started with Carmella, who then had a match with Nia Jax, and then went to Alexa Bliss, Emma, and Dana Brooke, their pairing, and then their feud with Asuka. So it's just really good to see that the women's division actually does have some depth, not as far as talent compared to the 3 previous women that I mentioned, but as far as feuds and stuff, a lot of mixes. You could put a championship on a heel, you have another face to go back and forth. So there's definitely some talent there. I'm just happy they didn't show Eva Marie on the Future of NXT highlight. And this is where things got a little misty because we got a Dusty Rhodes highlight video and a lot of comments from some superstars. We got a recap of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic and the promo afterwards by Cody Rhodes saying that tonight we are all Rhodes, which is really good to see that the impact that he made on the NXT locker room. Triple H got a little teary-eyed saying that he was always by his side, and just how everyone remembered Dusty as always out for giving advice and just helping out the younger generation, which is nice to see. Speaking of the Dusty Classic, it was a really great tournament. The NXT Tag Team division has jumped leaps and bounds compared to where it was just in 2014. And I think the match that stood out in that tournament was the Jason Jordan, Chad Gable, and Rhino Baron Corbin match. Surprisingly, when I saw the match, I was just very impressed. I definitely think it was Jordan and Gable that carried that match, but it's just seeing Rhino and Corbin improved a lot in 2015 as well. Just seeing them able to move around the way they did. It was a really good tag team match. Next up were highlights of the NXT careers of Neville, The Ascension, Tyler Breeze, Becky Lynch, Kevin Owens, Sasha Banks, Lucha Dragons, and Charlotte, and their respective debuts on the main roster. And then they talked about some of the new core guys that stood out in NXT in 2015. We then caught the 8-man tag team match from Brooklyn in progress. The Hype Bros, Enzo and Cass, against Jason Jordan, Chad Gable, Dash, and Dawson. Being there live just reminded me how great that ending sequence was with everyone hitting their finishers, getting the best of the heels. Very fast-paced, too, which normal 8-man tags, things get a little out of control. So the final highlights were the Finn Balor-Samoa Joe match from London. Rich and Corey talked about the competition getting more difficult for Finn Balor in 2016. And Corey Graves picked on Rich before he walked away angrily. So yeah, those were the 2 weeks of the best of NXT show. So like I said, some of the matches were alright that they showed clips of that they wouldn't consider the best, but I guess they just can't show every Sasha Banks Bayley match or Finn Balor match. So it was good to see them highlight some of the other superstars that might have been overlooked elsewhere. As you may or may not be aware, there were 6 categories for NXT awards. Overall Competitor of the Year, Male and Female Competitor of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, Match of the Year, and Takeover of the Year. I'll start from the bottom and work my way to the top. Takeover of the Year, Rival, Brooklyn, Respect, and London, which I'm surprised why they kept out Unstoppable. I think that was better than, I believe, Respect. But I definitely went with Brooklyn. Being there live, just seeing the crowd, just that building in general, I think it was about 15,000 people sell out the Barclays Center. You had the women's match, you had the ladder match. I think Apollo Crews, Jushin Thunder Liger was there as well, so it was just a really good show from top to bottom. Tag Team of the Year, I'm pissed that they didn't have Jason Jordan and Chad Gable on this, but the choices were Blake and Murphy, Enzo and Cass, the Vaudevillains, Dash and Dawson, and the Lucha Dragons. I went with Enzo and Cass. They're the most over tag team. It's a shame they haven't been given the tag team titles yet, but regardless, they're still the most over team in NXT. I almost wanted to go with Dash and Dawson just because of their no-nonsense style, just their ground and pound style, but they haven't been on top as long. So I had to go with my default tag team and Cass and Enzo. Female Competitor of the Year. You have Becky, Bayley, Charlotte, Sasha, and Asuka. It can't be Asuka. She hasn't been in NXT long enough. I'll probably say her for 2016 if she hasn't been called up to the main roster yet. But I'm going to go with Sasha. her character, her promos, her in-ring ability, everything. As soon as she won the NXT Women's Championship, I know it was the Fatal 4, I forget which takeover that was, but ever since then, she's just been skyrocketed. The confidence boosted. She just felt more at home in the ring. And like I said, the promo and the build-up to the Sasha Bayley match at Brooklyn just surpassed anything WWE did this year. Male Competitor of the Year: Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze. I believe I went with Kevin Owens on this one. It's either Owens or Balor. Samoa Joe wasn't in NXT long enough. Sami Zayn was hurt most of the year. And Tyler Breeze, I think, was called up midway through 2015, maybe towards the latter half of 2015. But just Kevin Owens, same thing with Sasha. His promos, surprisingly for a big guy, his in-ring ability, what he's able to do in the ring, just bar none compared to... Finn Balor's great. I love him. Probably my favorite wrestler in NXT, but just he's missing the charisma that Kevin Owens has. Even though Kevin Owens was on the main roster for most of the 2015 year, I just have to go with him as far as being the best male athlete in NXT this year. Overall Competitor of the Year: Balor, Bayley, Owens, Sasha, Samoa Joe, Charlotte, Zayn, Becky Lynch, Tyler Breeze, and Asuka. There's a couple different routes I could have went. I could have went with Kevin Owens again. I could have went with Finn Balor for overall, but if I'm not going to pick him for male, why would I pick him for overall? But surprisingly, I went with Sasha Banks. Like I said, when I picked her for best female, there's everything about her character and just about her in-ring style. She carried NXT, especially the women's division, for most of 2015. So I have to go with Sasha on that one. And Match of the Year: you have Bayley versus Sasha in Brooklyn, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens from Beast in the East special, the women's 4-way match from Rival, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor from London, Sami Zayn and Owens from Rival, Sasha and Bayley, the Iron Women match from TakeOver Respect, Sasha and Becky from Unstoppable, Sasha and Charlotte from NXT show on July 15th, Balor and Neville from Rival, and Balor and Owens from a March 25th episode. I went with Bayley and Sasha from Brooklyn. The best match, storytelling, in-ring ability between the two women, the hype videos, the promos before leading up to the match. It was just, and then the reaction itself, being there live definitely gave that an edge for me. Just seeing the crowd react that positively and with so much emotion for a women's match, just something you didn't see in WWE at all in 2015. You're getting a chance of boring and everything like that, cat calls during the match. So big difference between NXT and WWE in the women's division. And I think it starts with the Sasha and Bayley match from Brooklyn. So that was episode 45 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. Next week, we'll be back to regular NXT tapings starting on January 13th. And that's actually when they'll reveal the winner of each award. Let me know what you guys voted for those categories if you did vote. Like I said, the voting is closed now. So I hope you got to vote, made your voices be heard for these awards. I'll be back next week. Peace.